Hello everyone, good evening. I'm Shreya Dhondial. You're watching the Urban Debate here on Mirror Now. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine kissing your 2-year-old goodbye outside his or her daycare, heading to your office and believing with absolute certainty that your child is safe and cared for. Now imagine discovering that while you were working, your helpless toddler was being subjected to absolute and unadulterated terror. A parent's ultimate nightmare, ladies and gentlemen, has turned into a sickening reality in Bangalore. A house of horrors has been exposed, operating right inside the campus of French IT giant Capgemini. This is where a daycare run by the company was turned into a torture cell by 5 nannies who were entrusted with these children. The videos of abuse are staggering in their cruelty. Children as young as 2 years, 3 years, allegedly systematically abused, tortured, physically intimidated. According to the police complaint, these babies were forced into drums of front-loading washing machines to terrify them into silence. Can you imagine that? When they cried out for their mothers, caregivers reportedly sprayed water directly into their mouths using toilet jet sprays before locking them away in bathrooms. The horror finally came to light after chilling video clips of the abuse surfaced on social media, triggering an immediate distress call to the child helpline. Police have registered a criminal case against 5 caregivers at this facility. The accused have been slapped with stringent charges under the Juvenile Justice Act along with criminal intimidation. Now, amidst massive outrage, Capgemini has issued a statement saying the health and safety of employees' families is their foremost priority and therefore it is temporarily closing the daycare facility. There are 3 absolutely horrifying videos that are on social media and are the basis of the police complaint. I'm going to take you through them one by one. Okay, first take a look at this video. Since the children are young, we have blurred their faces to conceal their identities. So in this video, one nanny, you're seeing, nannies are abusing children. A child is seen crying inside a bathroom and allegedly being forced into a washroom to sit there as punishment. And ladies and gentlemen, this perhaps is the most shocking. A child allegedly being put inside the drum of a washing machine while a caregiver is standing, appearing to keep the child trapped inside. There you see it. Can you imagine the trauma of a child? Separated from his or her parents for 8 hours, 9 hours, and then being put into a washing machine by the caregiver. Now, a third video has also emerged. This is where a child is seen locked inside a bathroom and screaming in agony, absolute agony, while the caretaker is seen looking on and doing absolutely nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now emerging that a guard working in the campus got a whiff of what was happening and alerted authorities. There's a proper FIR now. These are the details. The FIR says that toddlers aged between 2 to 3 years were intimidated. Babies were put inside washing machines. They were forced to sit in the toilet, in bathrooms when they cried. They were locked up. There was jet sprayed water into their mouth. The toilet jet spray, that was put into their mouth to make them keep quiet. And they were locked inside bathrooms for crying. They were threatened when they cried. There was physical abuse that has been caught on videos. Let me go straight across to the Bengaluru Police Commissioner, who is calling this incident very serious. Just listen in.
So this is a very, very serious incident and we have taken up in the earnest. A Deputy Commissioner rank officer, a lady officer has been deputed for this, and the Joint Commissioner East, both are looking into this serious issue. The complaint has just come yesterday and we are verifying it. More than arrest, the main thing is that the perpetrators should not get away, and if anyone is supporting them or this has been going on for a long time, all these acts have to be done. No one will be spared, certainly that's the fact. And the videos are being verified, CCTVs, all other technical evidences are being looked into.
Ladies and gentlemen, babies being abused in daycare is probably the worst kind of cruelty. You leave your child behind trusting that he or she will be in safe hands. hands that are meant to comfort and cajole when a child cries or acts difficult. What has happened in Bangalore has happened before. Last year, this was a big story in the UK when a UK court convicted a nursery worker of abusing 21 children. What did she do? She kicked them in the mouth. She stepped on their shoulders. She tottled some toddlers into their cots, heads down, and she pinched them. Like in Bengaluru, all of this was caught on CCTV. The courts there called it exceptional cruelty and sentenced her to 8 years in prison. In the case of Bengaluru, question is, where was the oversight? That's the question I'm putting to my guests who are joining me this evening. Mohandas Pai, thank you very much. You're a citizen of Bengaluru. You're also the chairperson of Arin Capitals. Before I go to my other guests, can I please ask you what you make of what has happened at Capgemini?
No, I think it's extremely disturbing and very, very shocking, because I have not heard of such kind of abuses happening to children or employees anywhere in Bangalore in any office. And I'm really shocked because I can't understand how it could happen. And I think it requires a thorough investigation by the company and by the police to see how it has happened. We must remember that the child is ill-treated. The child will speak up, talk to the parent, and how many times has it happened, how long has it happened, etc. And who captured this video, how did the video leak, how did the video go out. It also shows a lack of governance, a lack of oversight by the company. The company seemed to have just outsourced it and left it to people to run. And I think it's very important for any enterprises to take care, to have a proper oversight, and to involve parents too, because parents are most concerned about the children and take all steps to ensure the safety and well-being of the child. Safety and well-being of a child who comes to your office for a creche is very, very important, top priority for any enterprise. And I think there has been a dereliction of duty all across by the corporation, by the people of the corporation who are responsible for maintaining it and having a look at it, by the HR department who seem to have, just forgotten about it and jumping up and down to create events, and by senior management, because the very special responsibility. And, look, I can't believe it can happen. Okay. I am really shocked. I can't even imagine that such things could happen, that too in a corporate office, in a creche run by them, because they all pay well. And I want to know, how did they select these women? You just don't select some person off the street and say, come and run a creche for young children, because these are very young children. They should have some training, they should have some capability, some kind of background checks have to be done, etc., etc., etc. So it is like Ripley's, believe it or not, it's very shocking. Dereliction of duty, lack of oversight, breakdown of systems. A thorough investigation is called for by the company and by the police. Company-wide, because they have to really look deep within to find out what went wrong, how did it go wrong, and everything, because everybody is goody-goody. The companies want a good thing, they want to talk about it and everything else, right? So what went wrong? I mean, how can it do that? And the police, of course, have to take action, criminal action against these people for ill-treating children.
Mohandas Pai, you talk about the fact that were these children not communicating with their parents? There are 3 videos, Mr. Pai, I've put out, and the children are very small. They're 2 years old and 3 years old. I'm thinking to myself, there is a special place in hell for people who put little children in bathrooms while they are crying and put them in washing machines. So that is probably what happened.
No, remember that 2-year, 3-year children, if a child is abused, the child will not go back to the same place. Child will cry and tell the mummy, parents, I'm not going back, this happened. I'm just trying to understand what happened, because I find it too shocking. It's beyond belief, right? How can anybody, first of all, how can anybody treat a child like that?
Correct.
You can never even think of treating a young child like that. It is a small, innocent child. You can't treat a child like that. Second, how did it carry on for so long? I don't know how many months, how many days it carried on. I don't know. They got to find out. And third, who recorded, how it recorded, how did the recording go to the company, go to the management, where does it go? The entire thing it shows total breakdown.
But Capgemini also has to take responsibility, as you're pointing out, because they've just issued a nice statement that, utmost responsibility, children, employees, therefore we are shutting down this daycare center for the moment. That will not help. Shutting down the daycare center will not help. It will make lives very difficult for people who work with you. So that is not even the answer, to my mind.
I totally agree. They've been ill-advised to issue the stupid statement. They should have said very clearly that we are forming an inquiry group immediately, we'll take appropriate action, and we will make sure that appropriate punishment or system will be reviewed. They should have spoken something like that, not a wishy-washy statement just to wash it away.
Correct.
So this is not done. Maybe the PR consultants have told them, put a wishy-washy thing, people will forget. But there are people like you and other well-wishers who are not going to forget, right? We're all concerned about society. They're not going to forget. They made a very, very big mistake by putting out that very stupid statement. Nobody should do that.
A country like UK didn't forget. It pursued the case against that absolutely horrifying nanny last year, and she was convicted for 8 years. She was subsequently deported. Britain didn't forget, but in India, the problem, Mr. Pai, is that we don't outrage over the right issues. We are always outraging over the wrong issues. And number two, our public memory is very short. That is the problem with this country.
Look, I don't want to beat up Indians and everything like that, because I don't want to do that. You're talking about the UK. You heard about the grooming gangs which have been hidden for 20 years, and 250,000 girls have been groped, raped and all that. So I don't want to talk about other countries. All I'm concerned is, how did it happen? How did it continue to happen? The brutality. How did the company, Capgemini is a good company. It's a good company, okay? They have proper system and processes. How did it break down there? What went wrong? I'm very curious, because it's inhuman. And who are these 5 women who did that to children? How can a woman do that to a child? I mean, put spray into the mouth and tie it up in a... That is not your child. It's not your child. It's somebody's child. You got a custody for it for 5-7 hours a day. How did you do all this? How can you think of doing that? Look, tomorrow you are a mother, you're running around, some anger, something happened. I don't want to talk about it, because, it's unbelievable. But somebody is given a custody of a child, and there's supposed to be 5 women, five nannies, right? To manage all these children. I don't know. I mean, I'm really shocked. And I think everybody must take it very seriously. And I would say all companies in Bangalore and India who run creches in their own company premises are send the children send their the parents, they pay for outsourced creches to take action, should review, should relook at everything, put in proper governance, put in proper system, look at who is the nanny is taking care, look at the background, and make sure this never repeats again in any part of India or any enterprise across India, because this cannot happen, should not happen.
Okay. Mr. Pai, I'm just introducing my other guests. If you have the time and the inclination, do stay on. Nisha Jamwal, columnist, joining us on the broadcast. Sanjay Saha is a former IPS officer with us on the broadcast. Sumit Chandar, you're an advocate at the Supreme Court. Thank you very much. And Dr. Vikram Singh, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, with us on the broadcast as well. Nisha Jamwal, I'm going to take off from where Mr. Pai left. Question is, and this is a question that will be asked, that yes, they are toddlers. Some of them are 1.5 years old. Some of them are 2 years old. Some of them are 3 years old. There is systematic abuse happening. It is all caught on camera. It is absolutely inhuman. People treat their pets better. So I don't know what these 5 nannies were exactly made of. But how are the children not communicating with their parents? Because it is not via parents that this abuse was unmasked. It was actually by a whistleblower.
Yes, the point I want to point out too is that the whistleblowers were removed from their job. The first whistleblower was removed from his job. And the second thing was that the authorities suspected something suspicious within the system, within the Capgemini system, and there was no action taken. They asked for proof. So that was the serious lapse. The third thing is that when a child you ask about communication, a 2 or a 3-year-old child may not be able to communicate because he's so terrified that if he talks to if he communicates to his parent, more water is going to be thrown down his throat, he's going to be locked. Forget the bathroom. Going into a closed drum of a washing machine, it's shocking, abominable, and a near-death experience for the child. So the question that begs to be asked right now is, did the parents not suspect something? I mean, you give a child there day in and day out. What is the parent doing about this? I mean, you give birth to a child. Of course, the authorities of the center are wrong. Of course, they are, giving false platitudes and they need to do much, much more. I agree with all that. But the one thing that I feel as a woman and as a person who, has seen children growing up around me, why would a parent who gives birth to a child put a job as a greater priority and not be able to see a child's reaction or sense that the child is so uncomfortable going back to because this has been going on for a long time, which is what news reports say. And the most important thing that I want to say right now is that why is the police asking for proof? Why is there not more action being taken? Why have the nannies been arrested? And what was the recruiting process while keeping these women? Because normally in a daycare center, there are cameras. So, I mean, why has it taken so long? Is there no vigilance on a day-to-day basis seeing what's happening inside that creche? Because it's very, very serious when you give a tiny little 2-year-old to a creche. What is how are they watching and making sure that there is a certain, behavioral pattern which is kind and nurturing to the child, which is staying there for so many hours?
Nisha, you raise an important point. You are saying how come the parents didn't know? I'm again going back to the case in the UK because that's the closest parallel we can draw. In the UK, there was physical abuse, right? There was a child who was kicked on the face and then the nanny walked over his shoulder. She was constantly pinching little children. So there was evidence of physical abuse on the body of children. And in fact, it was parents who noticed that, there were marks all over their children's bodies, and that is how the entire case came to light. In this case, of the 3 videos I have seen, of the FIR that I have read, more than physical abuse, it seems to be mental abuse. There's a little baby who probably can't even walk, maybe not more than 16, 17 months, who's crying, and you've just left that little child on the bathroom floor. There's another child who's barely 3, is weeping, and you are looking at the child from, in most corporate houses, bathrooms are such where you can climb over the door and watch. So you're watching over the child, you're seeing the baby crying, but you have locked the child up. So, the baby being inside a washing machine, I'm sure the washing machine wasn't turned up. So maybe there were no physical manifestations of this abuse, is the limited point I'm trying to make. Just getting in Dr. Vikram Singh here as well. Dr. Vikram Singh here, the law, of course, will take its own course. But, when you look at the videos, I was thinking to myself that people treat their pets better than how these 5 women were treating children. Children who were entrusted into their care.
Shreya, good evening, and esteemed panelists. I would say that we treat our pets much better, 1,000,000 times better than what these nannies were treating their infants and toddlers to. It is a collective and a cumulative failure, and I think the callousness of the worst kind. You have technology to take recourse to, you have CCTVs, you have AI-enabled red flagging systems that even if you are 1,000 kilometers away on the other side of the planet, you could access the video footages real time. One really has to try very hard to bungle up in this manner, and I would say that what they have done, registered a case, I would be very satisfied if a case under the NSA is also slapped against them, because this will shock and numb the senses of anyone who hears this shocking news. Indeed, it is not possible for a person to be so depraved as these nannies are. Are they sadists? Are they depraved perverts? It is impossible for a normal human being to be so callous and cruel and insensitive. Therefore, I would say the strongest provisions of law need to be incorporated, apart from the BNS, also the NSA, and see what went wrong in the entire hiring, the checking, the inspections, and the entire running of this center. I think something was horribly wrong. Somebody wanted to make money, got untrained, and people who were unprepared and hired them at half the wages, then did not allow the CCTVs to function. As you would also understand, wherever there is this miscarriage of justice, you will find the first casualty will be the CCTV. Then no inspections whatsoever. Mr. Sahai will tell you, you really have to bungle up very hard to have a depravity of this level. Shreyaji.
Mr. Pai, then Capgemini is completely to blame, and their HR is completely to blame, because Dr. Vikram Singh is rightly pointing out that in every facility today there are CCTV cameras. I don't know whether there are CCTV cameras in washrooms, because even in our office, while there are CCTV cameras everywhere, they won't be in washrooms. Is that why the washrooms were selected as chambers of torture? I don't know. But I'm just thinking, was anyone even reviewing this CCTV?
Yes, I think, look, the employer has vicarious liability for any action that happens within the premises. That's the law. And that law has to be enforced. Nobody can escape liability. But there has to be a proper inquiry to find out how it happened. Look, I'm too shocked to understand how could such things happen. I'm sure all of us here can never even imagine this could happen. Can we imagine? I mean, before me, a speaker said, how could it happen? I mean, how can there be such brutality for children? Children in a corporate office in Bangalore. Imagine, it's not an ordinary place. It's not somewhere, in the wilderness. It is the corporate office. A lot of people are there. And there are 5 people who are probably well paid. How could they do that? It is so shocking. That's why I'm saying police should arrest those 5 women, or who the nannies are, so that, they can have evidence. They must quickly have, a company must quickly have an inquiry, get to the bottom of this, so the truth is known. And all across corporate India, everybody must act immediately to make sure that whether it's happening in the premises, something is happening there, and take all kinds of precautions. As a society, we cannot accept this. We'll never accept this. It cannot. It happened. None of us can imagine it will happen in the corporate office. We heard of child abuser outside and all that, but in the corporate office, where there are so many people, there walking in and out. I don't know.
Things have stopped shocking me anymore, Mr. Pai. If a 600 crore heir to a real estate empire can be pushed off a mountain by his 20-year-old fiancée because she had a problem with his receding hairline, anything can happen in this country. In this country, in the world we live in, and in the times we live in. Nisha Jamwal, do you think that parents across India today are looking at this case and thinking to especially mothers, are looking at this case and thinking to themselves, is it even worth it leaving our child in daycare and going to work? Look, most women work so that their children's lives can be better, right? Most women will work because their children's lives can be better.
Right.
Does a case like this actually force women into thinking, maybe we should just be the ones responsible for bringing up our child? Naukri choda abhi thode din ke liye.
Shreya, I think that's such an important point, because it's very easy to just get married and immediately have children. But should there not be some counseling even for mothers to take responsibility, and fathers to co-parent and have a child only if they can actually shoulder the responsibility of taking care? Is a job more important than the life of the child, which is at threat? Because I've also heard of bus conductors molesting little children who go by buses. I've heard of cases, and I've worked in the social sector on this. The question that begs asking is, in India, because you do bring up India often, and I agree with you, is it so important to get married and immediately have children, or to wait until you can actually take on the responsibility of parenting? And I'm not, pulling back on the stand that corporates who have creches have to take responsibility. The nannies must be arrested. I agree. But as a woman, I also feel that motherhood is a very serious thing. How could the children have not shown some signs of the terror they were going through? Even if they can't speak in eloquent English, surely they gave some indication. How did the parents miss that? Shreya.
Sumit Chandar, as someone who practices in the Supreme Court, from the lens of the law, how do you look at this case? And should we expect another round of Tariq pe Tariq? We'll never know what happens to these 5 monster nannies, because the case will maybe perhaps die a natural quiet death.
The investigation has already started, and I am sure the accused will be dealt with properly in the eyes of law. But this incident, which is very unfortunate, but it has opened up the eyes that there need to be stricter rules and guidelines to take care of such situations in future across the country. In fact, just to inform the public, Ministry of Women and Child Development under the Ministry of the Ministry of Child and Welfare Development has made some guidelines and issued these guidelines, which are called the maternity benefit guidelines. And they are the national minimum standards and protocol for creches. So it's already in place. In fact, Karnataka has its own rules, which is the Karnataka maternity benefit rules. And it says that there are certain guidelines which all the creches and daycare centers should follow, which includes, of course, the employees there should have a police verification, there should be address verification, they should be trained caregivers, the CCTV camera should be there with regular monitoring. So all these guidelines have already been given. Only thing now that needs to be seen is whether it is being implemented properly or not. If you look at it, the Juvenile Justice Act, Section 75, criminalizes cruelty by any person who has been given charge of a child. So very well, these people will be punished clearly under the Juvenile Justice Act as well as the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. In fact, in 2024, the Bengaluru government authorities had directed all private child care centers to register under Section 41 of the Juvenile Justice Act.
Okay.
So all these registrations have to ensure that there is a proper compliance of the rules, guidelines, and the staff training, which is a very important factor here.
Okay. Okay, but was there any training? By the looks of it, there was no training. By the looks of it, these 5 women are probably picked off the road, Sanjay Sai.
Unfortunately, there is no system today that there is a mandatory license which is required by... Yes.
1 minute, you are making a point. There's a mandatory license that is required by who?
No, there is no requirement for a mandatory license. There should be a mandatory license, which should the license should be given to the daycare centers only if they comply with the trainings and the other compliances mandatory to take care as a child care center. In fact, there is a diploma or certificate in early childhood care and education, ECCE. These trainings, there are already things in place. Only thing it needs to be done is compliance. And that compliance can be done only if things are made mandatory, that you won't be allowed to act as a daycare center for children unless you have got these things, checks in place.
No, so by the looks of, yes, you are right that there are enough rules and safeguards in place. Were they being adhered to? Clearly not, by the looks of it, Sanjay Sai. Matlab, it's only after these videos come out, only after children have been put into washing machines, only after children have been sprayed in their mouth with toilet jet sprays, that the country will wake up to say, acha, aap guidelines banate hain, now let us ensure this doesn't happen again.
Country will not wake up now also. So let me tell you with all amount of conviction and what I've been seeing in the government and parallel sectors in last 35 years, country is not going to wake up. With regards to the earlier panelists talking about rules and variety of other things which are in place, they at the end of the day have become something of cosmetic value. Because the worth of a rule is only compliance and enforcement. Otherwise, there is no rule, there is no law, there is nothing. I have a little divergent view on what Mr. Mohan Das Pai has been talking about as to the corporates having a different sort of a culture, different sort of environment, and everything's go hunky-dory. I don't subscribe to that. There are a variety of things which are happening in the corporates, and the way the corporates absolve themselves of their responsibility. Capgemini is a perfect example in this case. These kids are not being left in the creche. It was not a nanny's creche. It was Capgemini's official creche. So the kids were being left in with Capgemini, and the employees also belong to Capgemini. See the whole tragedy of the situation, that the employees also belong to Capgemini. And you're talking about a big multinational, right? A big multinational does not have a CCTV apparatus with a reasonable amount of video analytics and a capability which is mandated, which they put in lockups and other places, that is not happening in the lockups also is a different story altogether. But it has to be audited every single day. And there are very simple tools which can audit a 24-hour video in just around, say, 15 to 20 seconds. Then who was the supervisor? Why are we harping again and again on the nannies? Nannies are monstrous. It is horrendous. Did nannies have somebody above them from the outsourced company or from Capgemini? Or the nannies were onto themselves, they could do whatever they feel like. There is nothing called criminal breach of trust. There is nothing called the responsibility matrix which happens in a company. What are we talking about? And why it came out? Might be there are any number of places where it is not coming out. It has come out only because of some rivalry out there. And most of these whistleblowers who come out is because they are put to pain, they are put to inconvenience, or they are put to some loss, some shame or something, and they come out in the open. It is a completely broken system. And you have these child protection officers. What do? They don't even know where the creches are. And we are talking about nannies training and rules which are in place. These nannies, and let me tell to the whole audience, that to what level a person can go, let us not decide. It is not Shreya or Mohan Das Pai or Sanjay Sah's attitude, thought process, culture, grooming, thought process of the law. That does not operate. The criminality has seeped in. Let's not get into the woman part of it. Let's not get into the mother part of it. Anybody can do anything. That's the reality. Unconnected to this, we are finding donations being eaten off. So what I'm telling you is, we have to be ready for the burst. And here we are not even in a position to handle the supervision and monitoring mechanism in a professional manner. Capgemini does not have the competence to run a creche. Capgemini does not have the competence to run a creche. And there are any number of multinational companies totally unconnected to this. They operate in India only through their via media IT companies here or system integrators. They don't take any responsibility, inclusive of the projects which they handle in this country.
Okay.
These are all issues which finally add up into that I can ride roughshod, I can get away with it. That single apology letter or whatever clarification is there, that should nail them.
Mr. Pai is shaking his head. Mr. Pai, why are you shaking your head? Because I have Priyank Konango who's joining us on the broadcast, but I'll give you an opportunity to please respond.
Look, I don't want to abuse the whole country for an act that happened which shouldn't have happened. Okay, let's not abuse the whole country. Let's not pass judgment. Capgemini is in the wrong. They have a fiduciary responsibility. They have failed. They failed in governance. They failed in oversight. They have to have an inquiry either by themselves or independently, find out. Action has to be taken against people whose responsibilities and who have failed. That is very clear. All employers now, all across India, should review their operation to make sure such a thing does not happen in their premises. Things will go wrong. Anywhere, in any part of the world, things will go wrong. What do we do when things go wrong? We first come to the root cause, punish the people who made the mistake, take action against people who have responsibility, and put in systems and processes to make sure it never happens again. And that is what everybody should do. I think that's what everybody should do. I don't want to blacken everybody's face and pass judgment against everybody. That's not right. You know, these things happen. It is wrong. It is wrong. Let's all agree it is wrong. Those women are directly responsible. They have to be punished. Capgemini has to take responsibility. It happened in their premises. They ran the creche to outsource people or whatever it is. Their HR and senior management have to inquire, find out who is responsible, find out whether there's oversight, what are the things that they did to do that, and make sure the people whose responsibilities are adequately punished. We have to do that. Okay? And they must improve system to make sure it never happens again. Because once you have a creche, the employer takes responsibility and there's a dereliction of duty. Let's all agree on that.
Okay. Mr. Sai, I'll give you 20 seconds to respond since you want to speak, and then I'll go to Priyank Kanungo.
10 seconds. You pick up any 100 creches, do an audit today, and the white paper will proclaim what it is exactly.
Priyank ji, you're joining us on the broadcast as someone who's entrusted with the duty of protecting the rights of children. I want to ask you whether you feel that even your agency has failed in its duty.
What are you talking?
I'm asking you a question.
What are you talking? How my agency has failed in duty?
तो आपकी एजेंसी का काम क्या है सर?
Which is my agency?
नेशनल
बताइए मेरी एजेंसी का नाम क्या है मैडम?
नहीं, आपकी एजेंसी का काम क्या है मुझे बताइए. आप मुझे बताइए आपकी एजेंसी का काम क्या है?
आप मेरी एजेंसी का नाम बताइए ना मैडम. मेरी एजेंसी का नाम क्या है?
NCPCR है आपकी एजेंसी का नाम.
मैडम प्लीज गो एंड रिसर्च, then come back to me. I am no more engaged with NCPCR.
Sir, but you are सर बट
My
यू
tenure, madam,
सर
listen
यू
to me,
प्रियांक
madam.
जी,
Madam,
प्रियांक
please
जी इसमें
listen to me,
लड़ने की
madam.
बात नहीं है.
If
देखिए
you
प्रियांक
don't
जी,
want
इसमें
to
लड़ने की
listen,
बात नहीं
if
है.
you don't want
मैं
to listen,
आप
if you don't want to listen, if you
sir, you are someone who has been part. All right, you don't want to speak, you don't want to answer questions. Okay, you are back here. I apologize. I thought you had switched off deliberately.
देखिए
प्रियांक जी सुनिए,
देखिए मैडम,
इसमें लड़ने की कोई बात नहीं
ऐसा
है.
है मैडम,
आप एनसीपीसीआर के
आपको बात
चेयरपर्सन
सुननी
थे.
पड़ेगी
मैंने
ना,
आपसे
आपको
सवाल
बात तो
पूछा
सुननी
whether you think
पड़ेगी.
एनसीपीसीआर
आपने मेरे
also
पे
failed in its
allegation
duty.
लगाया.
सिंपल सवाल था. आप जवाब दे दीजिए. ऑफेंसिव होने की जरूरत नहीं है.
एनसीपीसीआर की बात एनसीपीसीआर से करेंगे मैडम. आप एनसीपीसीआर की बात एनसीपीसीआर से करेंगे. आई एम नो मोर एंगेज विद देम.
हाँ.
दैट इज नॉट माय एजेंसी.
हाँ.
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, सेकंड थिंग, whatever has happened there is very shameful, and cruelty with the children cannot be tolerable. Whichever is the company,
हाँ.
we cannot we cannot excuse the company from the principal accountability. They are equally responsible for the conduct of their employees. Those who were engaged in protecting the children and taking care of children in that crèche. However, here I appreciate the act of State Child Rights Commission. They have already taken cognizance. Eligible FIR has been filed. Now we have to see what are the laws which have been violated by these employees. They have violated provisions of Juvenile Justice Act, so they have to face the consequences. Now, here the intervention required from the state government, that state government should ensure booking of concerned officer of that particular multinational company which is responsible for the taking care of the children as per the mandate of law for the benefit of women employees. Here the most relevant question today is apart from children's safety. Apart from children's safety, we have to ensure by due to these kind of incidents, we are actually entire system is disturbing and disrupting an environment for women to work. So here, the violation of women's rights as well as violation of
Okay, it's a good point you make.
Children's right.
It is a good point you make. Now, for my understanding, please help me understand, since you are saying that cognizance was taken by the state child rights body, etc. I want to ask you, and this is just for my understanding, because I don't have knowledge on it, I'm asking you. Are child right bodies expected in a state or in a country to keep a check of what is happening in daycare centers and creches across whatever their jurisdiction is? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
They are there for the redressal of grievances.
Okay.
And if they have been given a duty to inspect on a regular basis, they have to. But unfortunately, these creches are not governed by Juvenile Justice Act. They are governed by various state guidelines and state policies.
Okay.
So it's entirely responsibility of the state government to keep a check on these institutions.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad we could, I needed an understanding on that. So essentially then the, bodies like the NCPCR or even the state's bodies, child rights body is actually not liable in this case. In this case, it is the particular agency or the company that is running the creche and Capgemini in this case. We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah.
And the state government. And the state government.
And the state government. But the state government will act via state agencies, child rights bodies, which are state child rights bodies. And they don't report to the NCPCR?
No. Not the state child rights body. There are Women and Child Development Department. There are district administration who are responsible for all these things.
Okay. And they are supposed to keep a tab of all daycare centers in the state?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
so which means they have also failed in their duty. That is what I was getting at.
Definitely.
So that is what I was getting at when I asked you whether your body is responsible or not. Because Capgemini failed in its duty. That particular creche and who was in charge of that creche failed in their duty. But also the state government, the Karnataka government has failed in its duty. So essentially everyone failed in their duty, which is why children got put into washing machines. We'll leave it there for the moment. Mr. Mohandas Pai, thank you very much for joining us. Priyank, thank you very much. Nisha Jamwal, thank you very much. Sumit Chandar, thank you. And Dr. Vikram Singh, thank you very much for your time. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll wrap the show. Thank you very much for watching.